The sliding filament model of contraction means that there's going to be activation of cross bridges to generate force. So this cross bridge is formed when myosin heads are allowed to bind to actin, forming that cross bridge. So shortening occurs when tension is generated by these cross bridges, and contraction ends when the cross bridges become inactive. So in the relaxed state, thin and thick filaments overlap only slightly at the ends of the A band, which remember is the dark band. The sliding filament model of contraction basically states that during contraction, thin filaments pass thick filaments, and the actin and myosin overlap more. So neither of the filaments change length, they just overlap more. So again, that analogy of using your two hands, moving your fingers towards each other, represents the actin sliding towards each other. So this slide is showing us on a micrograph what it looks like when there's a fully relaxed sarcomere and when there's a fully contracted sarcomere down here. You'll see here that the space of the H zone is much larger in a relaxed sarcomere, and it's almost non-existent in the contracted sarcomere. So that's one criteria of a contracted sarcomere, is that the H zone starts to disappear. So the cross-bridge attachments form and break several times. Each time they pull the thin fibers a little closer towards the center of the sarcomere in a ratcheting action. So the Z discs are pulled towards the M line. The I bands shorten. Remember, the I bands are where the Z disc is found. The Z disc becomes closer, and the A bands move closer to each other. So again, we see our relaxed sarcomere here and a contracted sarcomere here. So let's talk about how the electrical signal gets to the muscle in the first place. And it does this with a couple different gates. So the two main types of gates that we have that are in this area are chemically gated ion channels. We can also use the term ligand for that. And what it means is literally there's a chemical that binds. And this chemical that we're concerned with here is called acetylcholine. It's a neurotransmitter. So the decision to move is activated by the brain, and the signal is transmitted down the spinal cord to motor neurons, and that activates muscle fibers. So again, since it's skeletal muscle, we know that it's voluntary or consciously controlled. There's ion channels here that play a big role in this, and the first one that I already pointed out up here is this chemically gated ion channel that opens by a chemical messenger such as a neurotransmitter. Throughout the body, we have other examples of these, and they could be opened by other neurotransmitters, or they could be opened by things like hormones. So this means that there are acetylcholine receptors on muscle cells that look just like this, and they travel from the nerve to the muscle. Once that happens, eventually voltage-gated ion channels open in response to voltage changes in the membrane potential. So that usually involves ions like sodium or potassium, which we'll talk more about later. So looking at the anatomy of this, for the big picture here, these neurons that specially control skeletal muscles are called motor neurons. And since that motor neuron is going to interact with the muscle fiber, The area where it interacts is called a neuromuscular junction. The neuromuscular junction is the region where the motor neuron contracts a skeletal muscle, and it consists of multiple axon terminals that interact at the sarcolemma. So basically, there are receptors, chemical gated receptors, on the sarcolemma, which is where acetylcholine binds. So the skeletal muscles are stimulated by what are called somatic motor neurons. The axons travel from the central nervous system to the skeletal muscle, and the axon branches, and those branches end on the muscle fiber, forming the neuromuscular junction or the motor end plate. And we call it also the motor end plate simply because it's the end of the muscular system. You rewrite that so there is a space there, but it's the end of the muscular system. So each muscle fiber has one neuromuscular junction with one motor neuron. So here we see the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord, and it's the part of the motor neuron called the axon, which is going to extend all the way to the axon terminal. So in our next slide, we're going to enlarge just this part here so that we can see just the axon terminal. And it'll be important that you know the steps that occur here. And for lab, you may also need to know the anatomy and identify the different parts of a diagram like this. So the axon terminal and the muscle fiber are separated by this gel-filled space called the synaptic cleft. So this is the extracellular fluid around the axon. This is the intracellular fluid. So the synaptic cleft would also be extracellular fluid. And within the axon terminals are synaptic vesicles. These synaptic vesicles are essentially blobs, to put it in real common language. The synaptic vesicle contains this neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. So the infoldings of the sarcolemma, which remember the sarcolemma is a plasma membrane, so it has the ability to transmit a nerve impulse into the muscle. So where the sarcolemma is folded inward, like you see here, those are called junctional folds of the sarcolemma. And what's important about those junctional folds is they have acetylcholine receptors, which we saw a couple slides ago. These acetylcholine receptors are chemically gated ion channels. So if we zoom into the synaptic cleft, the little green dots that you see are the acetylcholine receptors as they're binding to these channels. Once this happens, sodium enters into the cell.